So in the US, you have machine learning models that will work out how long a person should go to prison for.
Yeah.
So what their sentence will be.
Yep.
And what they've found is people with African-American or traditionally African-American names have longer prison sentences, according to this algorithm, than people that don't. So if it was a normal judge who wasn't racist and had no racial bias, they would give a person with a white person's name and a person with a traditionally African-American name 3 months, both of them. But this algorithm might say 3 months for the white person and 2 years for the African-American person's name, just because it's got this traditional baked-in bias from the way the courts were run for the last 100 or so years.
Yeah, so that's one of the dangers of using historical data.
Absolutely. But with any model, you've got assumptions.
Yeah.
And if you're not demonstrating what these assumptions are and vocalizing them up front, you are putting at risk all of these models and what the outcomes of these models are going to be.
I think you raise a really good point here, and something that I guess I've been really interested in is around how do you actually measure the success of these algorithms? So how do you measure how successful this has been, and how do you also measure the success rate of it compared to other potential algorithms? So if you're running this one algorithm, for example, in the court system, how do you measure the success of that particular algorithm? But how do you compare it against, if we had a different algorithm, would we have got a better outcome? And I guess the question kind of opens up even more. So, this could be applicable to all the kind of who's going through it, going back through these, machines and algorithms and actually saying, hey, we got a result. We got, 60% of the way there or 80% of the way there. But could we have actually been doing way better, if we were using a different model or a different structure?
So there's a few things there. Firstly, measurement is rarely done in companies.
Yeah.
It should be all the time. Most people have KPIs. They're rarely tested against them. It's rarely determined what they should be doing in terms of performance. And most of the KPI ratings are completely arbitrary and left up to the manager.
Yeah.
It's really hard for companies to set what success looks like. When it comes to a black box model that someone has brought in, it's even less likely that they're measuring the success because they don't want to look like an idiot for bringing it in. They don't want to be shown to be a failure. So it's working great, 100%. The other thing you need to look at there is what was the success metric for those models. So the HR model and the court system model were both designed to save time.
Yeah.
So both of those 100% have saved time.
Yeah.
But the massive challenge, and this is a challenge every recruiter has, especially every recruiter has, is what is a successful candidate? So how do you compare a candidate that is successful compared to a candidate that's unsuccessful? If they both make it through probation, what makes one better than the other? And this becomes really complicated because the majority of machine learning models require a success metric to work towards.
Yeah.
So if you're building a model of who would survive the Titanic, the success model would be this person survived the Titanic crash. And if you run a model across that, you can determine, whether or not the person, according to their attributes, was more likely to survive or less likely to survive.
Yeah.
So that's really easy. Death or not dead. Great. In terms of HR success, it's really hard to say, this person was an amazing employee or this person was an average employee. So when these models were built, they weren't built for that. When you send somebody to prison, the idea is for them to be reformed.
Yeah.
From a purely philosophical point of view. And at the moment, it is a purely philosophical point of view. In reality, especially in places like the US where incarceration is private business, it's how many people can get through the door, how long can we keep them there, how much money can we make per head.
Yeah.
So their incarceration rates, they don't care so much about how long it is and whether one person's getting more or less. As long as that person is getting sentenced and the judge doesn't have to spend time doing that, great success.
Yeah.
So it's not that the models are failing, it's that the models were set up with the wrong idea of success to begin with.
Yeah, which raises a key point. So I guess the models are only going to be as good as the people that program them and also based on the requirements that are given. So if you don't have a clear metric for success, then you have very little chance of these actually being successful. So,
well, successful for the problem you're trying to solve. They'll solve something.
Yeah, they'll solve something, but it may not be exactly what you are aiming for.
Yeah, and the other thing you have to worry about is the data being fed into it.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you feed in poor data, it's not going to give you the right answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes put in the wrong numbers into the calculator and just see if it gives me the right result all the time.
We were working with somebody at one point, and it showed us what happens when you don't run a model by common sense, and why you should always include stakeholders in the model building.
Yeah.
So they built a model to try and understand what channels helped drive the sales of a new car.
Yeah.
So it belonged to somebody like GM, not sure which car brand it was, but it was a new brand they were launching. And the model said that 99% of sales came from paid search, but paid search of people typing in the car brand name.
Before it was released.
Yeah. So no idea how they heard about the name, but 99% of people were buying the car based on typing it in. So all the money should go to paid search.